Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Ramadan Radio Wolverhampton. It's Tuesday afternoon again, and this is my third show. My name is Ajaz Ali. I'm here to present the legal clinic. Today, I have a guest from my office with me, Gavin Ward. I say with me, he's en route. He tells me that he is 2 minutes away. Traffic here around here is quite bad currently. I think there's some roadworks going on. So we will be discussing some property litigation today, and we should be discussing some certain aspects of employment law as well. So there's a lot of changes coming about imminently, and also if the government changes, there's proposals by the Labour Party, if they were to get in, they have certain proposals to change a few things, which we'll discuss with Gavin in relation to employment law. So, guys, if anyone wants to participate or wants any questions answered, any legal questions answered, feel free to either call us on 01902 972 150, or alternatively you can always WhatsApp message your questions on 07440 420 432. I think I'm a bit tired today. It's the Ramadan is working its toll on me today. Right. So we're happy to answer any questions that relate to anything but for crime, because crime we do not, I wouldn't say I've got the knowledge to inform people of that. Oh, Gavin, how are you? I'm good. You want to take a seat over here? Let's say number 4. I believe that is number 4. I'll just. Have I got you?
You have indeed.
Right. Yeah, that's brilliant. Okay, so I've just been saying, Gavin, that today's show we're planning on talking about changes in employment law, either that are coming about. Obviously, there's certain things which, since the budget, there's not employment law per se, but at least it'll affect people in salaries, etc. as well, and even employers. It'll affect them as well in what they take home, and then if Labour were to get in, come elections, I believe now. I don't think anything's been announced officially, but October-ish, I believe it's looking to happen.
Well, I'm glad I didn't put my money on what I was expecting, so I was expecting them to just reset the electoral cycle back to May, and that didn't happen. They should have announced it by yesterday if they were going to do that, because they have to give a particular window to the Electoral Commission to be able to do it. So that option has passed. Doesn't stop them doing it in June, though. Could do Theresa May.
They could, but as I said, in my opinion, I don't think they will.
No, they're going to wait till the autumn and.
Yeah, they hope that things get better for them.
How?
Well, maybe we always pray to Allah when things are tough.
Death by 1,000 cuts, isn't it? Really?
It is. So, So as I said, shall we get right into it? I mean,
yeah, absolutely. So, in terms of, it's not so much employment law as you mentioned. It was a change in the national insurance rates. So they've dropped an extra 2p in the pound off national insurance. Sorry, it might not have been close enough there.
Yeah.
So I think it's dropped down to, is it 8p now?
That's correct. Yeah.
So it's gone from 12 to 10, and I think that happened in January time, and then that they've dropped it back down now. Well, not back down, but they've dropped it down to 8 now, with an overall goal of entirely removing national insurance altogether. question mark over whether or not that's going to work.
My question is, was national insurance not there to fund the pensions?
Everybody believes that it was designed to fund pensions,
Hmm.
fund the health service.
Hmm.
And that's what, uh, and perhaps initially that was the idea, perhaps to some extent. I won't sort of, because I'll have to fact check myself on that,
Yeah.
but I won't specifically say that was the intention. That is certainly how everyone always feels about it. Is you pay your national insurance because you're going to get that's towards your stamp for your pension,
Hmm.
and towards the NHS. But that's not the way it works. It gets put into a general pot of taxation, and it gets spent on everything to Eric Pickles biscuits from his days in the transport department to not doing HS2 all
Yeah.
the way to Manchester.
He's
So
a growing lad.
he
He needs a.
certainly
He
was.
needs.
Don't know what his current situation is. He's not in
Yeah.
politics, I don't think, anymore.
No. No. I met him some years ago. To be fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's good news, I suppose, for employees because they will pay less tax in employment, and it was, I think, deliberately targeted so that it helped people in employment rather than generally helping people more widely.
Hmm.
I believe that the rate decrease also applies to self-employed people as well.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on it, but I think is that dropped down to 6p rather than 8 for
I'm.
self-employed.
I'm not sure. To be fair.
But I believe that does it still does benefit the self-employed as well. So that's quite handy stuff for them. Um, but unfortunately, with other tax rises, things like 5% on your council tax and such, it's a questionable benefit overall, I suppose. I
Yeah.
think the scale of the tax burden's still rising, generally speaking. It's more symbolic than anything else that they've sought to do that cut, as it were. They probably tried to recreate Gordon Brown's moment to drop in 2p off income tax, haven't they, from 2006 or something like that. But they haven't quite had any positive feedback to that at the moment, I don't think. People are still feeling the squeeze of the cost of living. But in terms of employment law changes itself, so if we're turning it into sort of the potential for legal changes, if Labour were to win the next election for it, they've got something called the New Deal for Working People. It's not particularly heavily, well, I suppose it is fairly heavily fleshed out on their website, considering it's not sort of acts of parliament that are going ahead just yet. You've got a ban on zero hours contracts, which could be quite good for people who are in sort of less secure employment.
Hmm.
End of fire and rehire. If you remember the P&O scandal that
Yeah.
happened a few years back, where they got rid of quite a large sum of people just
Just
to
to
then
get rid
sort of
of the.
bus in a load of other people, and they basically played roughshod with redundancy law, didn't they? Because you're not supposed to replace people for 3 months on that,
Yeah.
and instead of doing that, they just sort of pay people out on settlement agreements instead, which you can do, but it's not really the way to treat the law, is it? It's something that you can sort of brush to one side on the basis of a written agreement.
Yeah. They were trying to get around the law by not. Well,
By
they thought they were cleverer than the law.
and all they really did was sort of bring sort of fire and rehire into the public domain
Domain.
quite heavily.
Mm.
All of the news channels covered it at the time, and it was a particular mess for them, and it was a PR disaster, I would say, for the line itself.
Mm. Um, that's true. That's true. So what is proposed other than that then?
So they want to scrap the qualifying period for benefits. So if you're in employment whereby there'd be some sort of health insurance which you might be able to have, like private health insurance to some extent,
Hmm.
or if the death in service cover, I suppose, and just picking random things that might be available to you. You might have some sort of a reward gateway where you can get discounts on multiple different brands and things like
Mm.
that. That's paid for through the company. You have a particular login for it. Some companies might make you wait until the end of your probation or passing your probation before you're able to have access to those benefits. And some of those things, particularly the reward gateways, where you could get sort of like 5 and 7 and 8% off things like Tesco's and Sainsbury's, Marks and Spencer's, that sort of stuff. It can really help where sort of counting every pound is important to you.
Okay. Um,
there are a few other key points with it, actually. To be fair, the main ones, I think, are that unfair dismissal, sick pay, and parental leave will be available from day one. So you'll have those protections straight away rather than sort of anything else.
Okay. Right. Okay. Um, is that your phone?
No, this is my pad,
Oh, okay.
my notepad.
Right. Okay. And I thought I heard a buzzing. Um, right. Okay. It must be mine then. Mine's always going. Right. So what I was going to say, I think we exchanged some notes a little earlier on the changes, employment law changes coming into effect. I think we've discussed most of them.
Yeah,
I think.
we've discussed it. I mean, we do have some national insurance. Sorry, not national insurance. Even the national living wage changes. So I think they're coming up in from the 1st of April, so that people on apprenticeship salaries or 16 to 17-year-olds, it's going to increase by £1 and 12 pence. So that will go up to £6.40. Then between 18 and 20, the minimum wage, the national living wage will go up to £8.60, which is an increase of £1 and 11 pence. And then for anyone over the age of 21, that's going to go up by £1 and 2 pence. So that will
Mm,
go up to £11.44. So that's quite good. And then
that's actually quite a bit from going back 4 or 5 years ago. It was like £8 something, wasn't it? So
well,
it is going.
it's inflation, isn't it?
Yeah.
In all ways, it's sort of prompted that. And you've got statutory sick pays going up to £116.75 a week,
Hmm.
which is an increase of £7.35. And then from the 7th of April, you can have family-related sort of maternity, paternity, parental bereavement benefits. That will increase to £184.03, um, an increase of £11.55 in total
Okay.
for it.
That's good. That's quite an increase for a lot of people. In fact, the way things are going, it's well needed, isn't it? The cost of
Yeah,
living at the moment is like extortionate.
it is. So the cost of living scare is really sort of hitting everybody, and I think real wage growth, when you look at it on the charts against inflation, particularly when you factor in that prices are not reducing, they're just continuing to increase at a lower rate than they were.
Hmm.
Real wage growth is not much above 1%,
No.
which is not going to really cut it for most people, really. It's a pretty poor position to be stuck in.
Okay, that's true. Well, isn't there something to do with the protection from redundancy? There's changes that are coming in as well. I think the new law will add.
For
We added to the Employment Rights Act, actually.
Yeah, to further protect pregnant women, yeah, as they're returning back from maternity. So that, I mean, that can be an important one because sometimes employers are perhaps less happy to provide some sort of a phased return for people.
Mm.
A lot of people like to come back perhaps on sort of 3 days a week or
That
a
happens a
gradually
lot, isn't
build
it?
up.
Once they've had the child, they think they need to split their time between work and looking after the child. So,
Well, it's kind of like two full-time jobs, isn't it? I
mm,
suppose if you're parents and you're looking after a child. I mean, I've not got any kids, so I'm gonna take Ajaz. He's more
well, I've got
seasoned
I've
years on that
I've,
than
I've
me.
got
But
three, but I think credit must go to the wife because she holds the job and looks after the three kids. So I just do what I'm told.
so yeah, in terms of that, there's gonna be some extra protections coming in for that as well, which is useful for women in that situation.
Yeah. Okay. Carers leave. Is there anything on carers leave?
Yes, there's a Carers Leave Act that's come 2023. A new day one right is being introduced, permitting employees to request 1 week of unpaid leave a year to care for a dependent with a long-term care need. So that would be quite handy for
It would be
people who.
handy, and the Asian community in particular.
Hmm.
um, you don't see the Asian community putting their elderly in nursing homes as much.
Mm.
It is coming around now. As the generations go on, they're catching up. But
The cost
majority,
will put everybody off eventually.
the cost will put them off. Yeah, but no, but most Asians would think, well, my parents have looked after me when I was,
Mm.
whenever I've been in need and throughout my childhood. Now it's my turn to give back,
Yeah.
right? So that's the way the family setup has always been for a lot of Asians, and the and in this might be useful there as well, because there might be times where you need that time, but the employer wouldn't, in normal circumstances, say, well, get to work.
Well, and to be fair, it does say that employers can postpone the time if operation of the business would be severely affected as a result of it. So I suppose there's still some discretion to the employer in there, which probably isn't unfair depending on.
The type of job and type of role, is it, what's
Yeah.
dependent on it,
Yeah,
you know?
but it's got to be fair and reasonable, hasn't it? So I
Yeah.
mean, if you've got somebody who's suffering severe, whether they're old or whether they just sort of need help because they're suffering with a terminal illness or a difficult illness to overcome, then you probably do need to be present and able to help. I know a friend of mine, his father had to quit work in around the sort of the 80s,
Hmm.
because his wife had had a serious accident at work. And she could barely walk around, really. She had some severe problems as a result of that. And he remained her carer right up until she passed away, unfortunately, last July.
Wow.
So I mean, he sort of took that very seriously and committed his whole life to making
Hmm.
sure she was well looked after. She didn't go into a care home or anything like that for it. They just sort of had to do the best with what they could, and he had to take occasional part-time jobs and such to try to help supplement income a bit more. It wasn't an easy
Well, it
situation
wouldn't be
at all, but yeah, he did. There's no way he would have been able to hold down the
a
full-time
full-time
job
job.
doing it.
Mm.
It would have been too difficult. But with situations like this, I mean that's a helpful start on it, I suppose. I mean, if they could include flexible working in that to some extent, so that depending on the type of work you're doing, if you're able to do a little bit more earlier in the morning, maybe when care isn't necessarily needed so much, and then you could do some work from home then, and you'd be at home to be able to assist a bit more.
Mm.
That sort of agile working, flexible working could be quite a useful thing for some people in that respect if they were able to expand it out a bit more. I mean, maybe this is just the start of something that will gradually evolve over time. I mean, if you think about sort of what we were talking about just now with the protection from redundancy, for women, for pregnancy and family leave, um, that's evolved gradually over time. That position has gradually
Mm.
improved. It's only likely to, I say that, touch wood, it's only likely to improve. I hope it will continue to improve as it goes. But you never know.
Question is, who's gonna abuse it though? Well, that's always a.
Well, in terms of I don't know, because if you think about it from a carer's leave position, I suppose the employer wouldn't necessarily be too unreasonable to sort of receive some information about the dependent's condition, perhaps. Very, I suppose you'd have to be careful with it to an extent, but you'd want to see enough to know that A, there was a condition there, and B, that there was the care needs were required,
Hmm.
and that it would perhaps be better for that individual to do it. I suppose he's probably a given, I guess, to some extent.
I guess so. I guess so. Well, moving on. So later in the year, there's certain changes again that we're expecting. Um, there's another new act.
Yes, so you've got Employment Allocation of Tips Act to 2024. That's expected to come in and around July time. It's meant to impact on hospitality, businesses, hairdressers, personal service companies, requiring that 100% of tips are paid to the staff
So
before the end of the month. So you won't have the problem with the employers trying to keep some for an admin fee, which I think was happening with
I
the
think a
Pizza
lot was
Express.
happening actually. All restaurants, etc.
Mm.
Um, whereby even though you go to a restaurant and the only reason you give a tip normally is the level of service.
Yeah,
Food, you expect it to be of that quality because you're paying a premium for. Look, if you go into a chicken and chip shop, you expect chicken and chips. But if you go into a Michelin restaurant, you expect
Michelin
Michelin
style.
star quality food.
Is this a move towards an Americanized society to a certain extent, though? Because tips aren't very British, are they? If you
Well,
think
that,
about it,
you say that, but I've worked in hospitality. Uh,
that's true. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I've worked in hospitality, and um, I'm going back. You know, I started working in hospitality 30 years ago, right? So
Showing your age now.
so 30 years ago. So then, back then, yeah, it was expected even then. So you a tip was a 10% ish was expected even then. So um, now I don't think people tip as much now. Not tip as much. People who tip decent, but some don't think. Well, no, I'm not tipping.
A lot of people will tip people like their delivery driver and stuff like that. People who are sort of delivering the stuff to the house and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
A bit more.
I've tipped the driver before. I'm not sure about Uber and Deliveroo drivers because I think, well, nah, I'm paying premium for my food here.
Yeah, there is that to a certain extent, isn't there?
Yeah, well, most of these increase their prices on their websites, don't they?
Well, yeah, 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 absolutely.
But yeah, on the whole, I think it's a that's a win for the employee, a win for the restaurant and takeaway staff, um, definitely. And maybe you know, I didn't actually realize that. Well, saying realize, you used to be. Sometimes you go and you can tip even when you're paying by card. What happens to that tip?
Well, that tip will probably, I mean, I'm guessing here, but I'm assuming it goes straight into the business bank account along with the rest of the money, and then probably
Doesn't make his way out this end.
exactly, and it probably would be there, wouldn't it, in the system? You'd have the information
The
necessary to
information
do
will be
it.
there to say to allocate. This is the tip. This is the bill. This is the tip.
And this is why they used to say, "Oh, well, there's an admin fee required because we're having to separate money off here for you and such." And yeah, I don't like it myself. I never really liked the idea of thinking if we were tipping. I remember going to restaurants a couple of times, and my friend, because she really liked to tip, she always used to ask the waiter, "If we do tip you, do you get the money
Mm.
or?"
Or does it? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because quite often we'd be paid in cash at the time,
Mm.
and the concern is, if we left an extra couple of quid in there or not, then it's just going to go straight to
When I
the.
tip like that, I generally, if I've picked out a certain person who I think, well, went above and beyond for me,
Hmm.
I just put the cash in their hand and say, here you go, this is for you. Whether they declare that to the restaurant or not, that's I don't know. But
And then you might have the restaurant going at the end of the day. Oh,
oh, you're hiding things from
yeah,
us.
where's that fiver come from? All of a sudden,
Yeah,
is the cash theft going on here? And then you've got other sort of
yeah. I
employment law
suppose.
related problems kicking
I
in.
suppose. So I'm the one who's causing them.
Yeah, well, keep them coming. It's a good line of work sometimes.
Oh, that's another version of ambulance chasers, right?
Well,
So anything else that's coming in later on in the year?
so there's the Worker Protection Amendment of Equalities Act 2010, Act 2023. So that's coming in October period. The idea there is to bring in some extra protections in relation to sexual harassment in the workplace,
Okay.
which is still very topical stuff
Mm.
because there's still get a lot of sort of sexual harassment claims happening.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
always in fear
I'm not surprised.
with my good looks, of courh.
Uh, mm. Dear me.
Right. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, moving swiftly on with it. So there's also neonatal care leave and pay. So that will be employees will have from day one the right to take up to 12 weeks leave where a child who is 28 days old or younger is admitted to hospital for care for a continuous period of 7 days or more. Now, I think that's a really good thing to do because
Mm,
some people do have young children who get quite ill quite quick. I think I was in a coma for about 3 or 4 days when I was quite young.
really?
Yeah, that's
I,
probably why I became a lawyer.
I didn't
Practically
realize
got
it.
banged on the head as a child, didn't I?
Well, on that note, I too got something hit off my head when I was younger. So,
Oh no, mine was a joke. I had a virus that put me in a coma,
oh,
but
okay,
yeah,
okay.
I was
Mine wasn't.
joking about that.
Mine
Oh no,
wasn't.
you literally got it. Oh god,
uh,
perfect.
but
But yeah, I think those are all the sort of the big employment law updates that are coming, with the exception of one final point to do with the increase in the tribunal limits. So, employment tribunals, when there is a judgment, there is an upper limit on the amount that you'd be able to receive.
mhm,
It's currently stands at £105,707.
mhm.
That maximum's going up to £115,115.
To say that we initially said, well, I initially said, oh, there's not a lot, but there's some changes coming.
Yeah, to be fair, when I said there wasn't quite a lot going on, there's actually quite a bit going on in some ways. There's relatively small changes in the main, but there's
But
some quite good positive
yeah,
changes in there too, which is nice.
they're all relevant, aren't they? They're all relevant to the now
Topical issues
topical
that are
issues,
going
and
on.
it's all stuff that I think will be welcomed.
And I think things that will
And
actually help women in particular as well, because I suspect, as you pointed out earlier, women want to protect their children, don't they? And
mm,
such quite a lot. There's that maternal feeling. I'm not saying the guys don't have that maternal feeling. Obviously, I wouldn't have a paternal feeling. I honestly wouldn't have a clue because I don't have any kids.
no,
But
I think you're right about maternal feeling is for women personally, in my opinion.
yeah,
The way if something happens to my children, I think the way I deal with it is totally different to the way, for instance, their mother would deal with it. Um, and she'd want to be there, the person who's like, for instance, Sahil, my eldest,
mm,
when he was 3, um, he fell and broke his femur.
yeah,
Now that's the hardest bone to break, apparently. Um,
go Sahel.
yeah, yeah. No, if you're going to do it properly. Yeah. So, um, uh, partly my fault, I suppose. Although I'm not accepting any liability, right? Um, it gone into the loft. I was in the loft. He came into the loft and he fell out the loft and hit the ladder. Anyway, me being me, I said he'll be fine, right? He'll be fine. Just rest up. He'll be fine.
Just a broken femur. No,
And
nothing to see here.
he was screaming. Honestly, he was absolutely screaming. And his mother turned around and said, "No, no, I want to take him to A&E." I was, "What for? He'll be fine." He'll, you know. Anyway, so I gave in and said, "All right, let's go to A&E." Got to A&E, and the amount of questions we had to answer, right? My God,
Mm.
what do you do for a living? The amount of times I had to answer what I do for a living, and I think they felt a bit more reassured when I said I was a lawyer. I don't think they should be reassured, but they were reassured.
Yeah, I don't know why that would necessarily be too
Yeah.
reassuring.
So,
I suppose
but
the
he was there.
awkward
He was there
question is,
6 weeks.
what did you do to your son? It's probably
Yeah,
perhaps the one that would have been more worrying.
yeah.
But
So he was in there for 6 weeks,
mm,
and she stayed there with him for 6 weeks, whilst working. But she then, I think I had to get her one of those broadband things.
he was admitted for six
Yeah,
weeks.
yeah, yeah. He was on traction for 6 weeks.
Oh God,
Yeah, so he had his leg in the air for 6 weeks. So
that sounds great.
yeah, so now if you look at him, you
No, you
wouldn't
wouldn't
you wouldn't think
realise.
you
No,
wouldn't
no.
think that he's not stunted growth, or he's not had any effect on him. He's same 13, same height as me,
Mm,
same shoe size as me.
mm.
So no, but obviously she stayed there. I I said to her, look, I'll stay here. I'm like, no, I want to stay here. She was still working. So I got her one of those internet dongle
Dongles.
things, and so she could still work. But she was sitting beside him and working. And I think she was pregnant at the time as well. So,
Well, she's in the right place if anything were to happen.
well, I'm not too sure. More risk there in these hospitals. But no, as you say, that would have been a welcome. That point
That would
about
have
how many
been
is it? 12 weeks, is it?
Yes.
Yeah. So that would have
Let
been
me just check that to be 100% sure, just to fact check myself to make sure it is. It is 12 weeks leave, yes.
yeah. So that would have been more than welcome.
Yeah.
Well-
I suppose that period, though, in the initial 28 days, is where you will see a lot of difficulties anyway
Yeah.
kick in. So it makes perfect sense for parents to be able to be with the child during that difficult time, because they're not going to be thinking about the work anyway, are they? Really, to a large extent,
No,
their
they won't
worry's
be.
going to be about the child to a large
Yeah.
extent.
100%.
And in a way, maybe to some extent as well, that's probably more targeted towards the men, actually, if you think about it, because from a woman's perspective, they're already likely to be on maternity.
Yeah.
Well, they are going to be at maternity at that point, so they're not going to be working. So that really, it's going to give the fathers an opportunity to be present
Yeah.
during that time frame. So that helps to balance the inclusion now a bit more, so that the fathers can do a bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, guys, we're going into a break. We'll chat a bit more when we come back from the break. If you have any questions, please call us on 01902 972 150, or you can WhatsApp us your messages on 07440 420 432. We look forward to speaking to you shortly. Thank you.
Eurofit Auto Centres, the leading MOT and service centres in West Midlands, are recruiting technicians, MOT testers and managers. There's a starting salary of £30,000 based on experience, and a minimum 5 years experience is necessary. For details, call Rashad at Eurofit Auto Centres on 01902 404045. That's Eurofit Auto Centres on 01902 404045.
Northern Gas Heating, celebrating 24 years of reliable heating and renewable energy solutions for your home. We have unbeatable offers on gas boilers, fully installed by our professional engineers. If your business or home is paying high electricity prices, call for a free Northern Gas Heating quote for cost-effective solar PV with battery storage. Visit northerngasheating.com or call 0800 083 1000.
Ramadan Kareem from Premier Tyres, suppliers of the tyres you can rely on for safe driving, as they're the only link between your vehicle and the road. And as well as leading tyre brands, Premier's your reliable go-to garage for servicing, spares, repairs and MOTs. Now available, Wolverhampton taxi plated cars for hire. Now Uber and Bolt ready, so you can run your business in confidence. For details, visit Premier Tyres, Crown Street, WV1 1PX. Call 01902 455 684 or visit premiertyreservices.com.
Experience the AK Windows difference. Visit our HQ at Economic House, Salisbury Street, Wolverhampton, WV3 OBG. Discover quality UPVC and aluminium windows, doors, roof lanterns, bifolding doors and composite doors in various styles. Offering glass and UPVC repairs too. With over 30 years of experience, AK Windows is your trusted choice for both trade and retail. For free quotations, call 01902 421 500 or visit akwindows.co.uk. Elevate your living with AK Windows. Precision, quality, satisfaction.
Midland Plastics and Plumbing Limited, your one-stop shop for home and bathrooms. A wide range of plumbing products and quality bathroom supplies in Wolverhampton. We supply underground drainage, guttering, roofing products, UPVC cladding, and much more to the trade and public. This Ramadan, we're offering 40% off all bathroom suites. Visit us online at midlandplasticsltd.co.uk or call us today on 01902 399 611. Or why not visit in-store at Moore Street South, Wolverhampton, WV2 3JN.
Mubi Base Electronics, specialist in car audio and home entertainment. Suppliers of leading brands, Samsung, Sony, and Panasonic. We supply and fit all car audio systems, top brands, Kenwood, Bose, and we're an authorized supplier of Vibe product. Visit our store online at mubibase.co.uk and order today for next day delivery. Mubi Base Electronics are proud sponsors of Wolverhampton Wanderers FC. Call us today for a free quote on 01902 754 546 and quote Ramadan 20 for 10% off. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Mubi Base Electronics, specialist in car audio and home entertainment.
Khan Builders offer a full range of building services, from major rebuilds to small projects, home improvements, kitchen fitting, plastering, bathroom fitting, extensions, and much more. We pride ourselves on providing a professional, caring, and high-quality service and always meet our customers' needs. Contact Khan Builders today on 07813 950 265 for a free quotation from Khan Builders. We've all spent a lot of time at home lately, and it's time to notice those carpets really need replacing. Let's be honest, we don't want to go from shop to shop, do we? Well, Perfect Carpets can save you the time and bring perfection to your floor. Over 1,000 high-quality styles and colours. Carpets start from only £3 per square yard. Rugs from £30. There's free measurements and free quotation with exclusive trade discounts to landlords and builders. You can't get any more perfect. Make your home with Perfect Carpets, the Black Country's biggest carpet store. Call us today on 01902 428 833 or visit us at 21 to 25 Snow Hill, Wolverhampton, WV2 4AD, and quote Ramadan Radio for 5% off your next order.
Quick Build Construction Limited offer a full range of building services, from major rebuilds to small projects, home improvements, kitchen fitting, plastering, bathroom fitting, extensions, and much more. We pride ourselves on providing a professional, caring, and high-quality service and always meet our customers' needs. Contact Quick Build Construction today on 07813 950 265 for a free quotation from Quick Build Construction.
Do you have a family member that's passed away and you would like someone to assist you in legal advice? Kenneth Jones Solicitors has been providing legal services for businesses and individuals since 1986. We specialise in probate, Islamic wills and family law. We also offer services in conveyancing, immigration and personal injury. Contact us today on 01902 745 773 or visit us on our website at kenneth-jones.co.uk.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back after the break. We are here with the legal clinic. So this is Ajaz Ali with the legal clinic. I have Gavin Ward here with me. We've been discussing before the interval, we were discussing employment law and certain changes to either employment law or certain changes that came about because of the budget, pay increases, etc. All of which I suppose are welcomed. We've got a short second session of only, I think we've got just over 11 minutes left, to be fair. So I think, Gavin, should we move on to something like, I think you've got some, I don't know, disputes, and do you want to talk about?
Yeah, so and I suppose it's the common one that people have is property disputes, really. Disputes with their neighbours in some form or fashion.
Yeah, I think we discussed it, I don't know, last year, the year before, because with fences and with eaves and with even shared drives where there's an issue over which your wheels over my half and this that the other.
Or
When
indeed,
there isn't no half, to be fair, because it's a shared drive.
there is no half, and it's I think that there's a lot of talk about obstructing the rights of way on.
Can you get
certain
is closer to the mic, or get the mic closer to you, please, mate?
I'll get the mic closer to me.
Yeah.
Sorry. So the moment I'm seeing more sort of easement disputes, which is a little bit like what you were saying in terms of the sort of the shared driveways.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone's got to make sure that that driveway is clear and unobstructed, so you're not parking your car in the middle of it, so you're not preventing someone else from driving their car down there to get to their own garage or to get to the parking that they have on their
allocated
own property.
that's right.
So that they get to their own allocated parking, if you will, to a large extent. And that can be a source of dispute for a lot of people, because some people like to park their cars in particular places, and perhaps when the drive is fully tarmacked, or perhaps they've done it as one big sort of landscaped concrete sort of section for it, then people may not necessarily consider the way that they need to park their vehicles so much, and they like to perhaps just think, oh, I'll just pop it there in front of the house, and they won't think, one, it's obstructing the neighbour's access, and two, you're not supposed to do that. Then there's legal remedies there for the neighbour in private nuisance if you are obstructing in that particular way. A more recent one that I've got at the moment is a freehold property that was divided up in the late 90s in London, and there are two ground floor properties within this.
Mm-hmm.
My client has the one. There's a neighbour next to. They have a courtyard space each out the back, but the neighbour also has access to the side passage to the building as well. So my client has an easement of access that takes them across the courtyard and down the passage to the gate, which links to the main road. So you've got sort of like, you can get your bins round from your backyard if you want to, round the side and through. And a neighbour had recently bought that property, and has since decided to pop a latch lock on the one gate and put a coded lock on the external gate.
Okay.
And he's claiming that the easement is now ambiguous, even though it is well documented in all of the documentation. The only issue that could probably be raised is the fact that his transfer document neglects to have the plan, the same plan attached to it, but the wording in the schedule
is
identical, but it's basically a reciprocal arrangement, so they both have got the right of access, as it were, and that's proven to be a bit of a problem at the moment, because if you come to sell the house, if you just go, okay, fine, he's not going to let me have access, I'll leave it, then I'm not going to pay the maintenance obligations on that if anything cropped up, but I'm not going to use it. Then someone comes to buy it later, they go, oh, that's great, I've got side access with it, and then you end up finding out there's effectively a dispute with the neighbour over whether that actually does or doesn't exist, as it were. So a problem there if you come to sell it. So, I mean, my recommendation's always been that if you've got a problem like this, you're better off sorting it out now rather than later. The longer you leave it, you might be sort of accepting the fact that you don't have that right of access.
That becomes a status quo.
Yeah, it becomes a status quo, and you have problems when you come to selling it, and it may impact on the value. It might cause a buyer to pull out potentially if there's, if it's difficult to gain access to that courtyard at the rear due to its positioning. You don't really want to be in that difficult position, and it's the same with boundary disputes, really. If there's a problem with the positioning of the fence, and it might only be by a few inches or a few feet, that could still be a considerable amount of your back garden or side access which is non-accessible to you. And I think I had one recently where the neighbour had decided to just say, well, that side gate you've been using for the last 5 or 10 years, you can't use it anymore because that's actually part of our title, apparently, and you don't have a right of way over it. So we're going to move the fence and we're going to put a lock on that gate to stop you accessing your own back garden.
Okay.
And that was a fairly recent one that happened.
Well,
we were looking at the title documents for that, and once we got the surveyor's report in on it, we'd managed to determine that actually not only was the boundary wasn't in the right place, but it actually sat more in the neighbour's back garden than it did in ours. Yeah, so actually our client was entitled to more land than less. according to because there was a measured plan in there when it was originally transferred
That
out.
person won't be too happy, will he?
No, and it was quite an elderly person, and the way the positioning of the plots was, you had the house on the one side and you had quite a long back and side garden, so you could see that they were trying to position out so they could have a separate plot there to have another house built on it to sell it, so that there'd be a bit more money for either inheritance or something like that for the rest of the family, I suppose, down the line, which is
Root of all evil.
yeah, money is the root of all evil for absolute certain. Yeah.
100%. No, that's an interesting one. No, so they were kind of pressurizing because our client. Are you saying your client was quite elderly? Is it?
No, so our client wasn't the elderly one. The neighbour was the elderly.
Oh, the elderly one is the one who's.
It was the aggravator, yeah, in this particular issue. So he's posting
Okay.
handwritten letters through our client's letterbox,
Wow.
trying to make all sorts of assumptions on things. And he's relying really on the width of the red line that outlines the property. And as you know, these aren't measured.
No, they're
plans,
not.
and
No.
that could represent anything from a few inches to
No,
a few
the
feet
title plan is cannot be relied upon
Yeah,
for its accuracy.
yeah, it's a conveyance plan you need.
Yeah, exactly. So title plan, no, that's not the one. That's just a general guidance.
Yeah, it tells you roughly where the boundary is going to be. It's absolutely
The shape of it might be right.
Yeah,
And more times than none, more times than others, it is likely to be right anyway.
Yeah.
But still doesn't mean that you could rely on it.
No, and you can't rely on it as being anything measured at all.
No.
That's why you're always going back to that conveyance plan to see what you've got. And if you have got something measured, and we were very fortunate in that respect on this one, because you don't always get a measured plan. This one was, and you could tell what the whole plot was.
Well, we've done some conveyances in recent years where we've actually measured. We've actually gone and got the client to measure, and then just so that we got it 100% right. And others we've just done by guidance.
Yeah, I mean, often a surveyor.
Does this look all right? It's
That
like,
sort of thing.
does this look all right? Yeah. Okay. There you go.
Surveyor's your best bet, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, if you want to make sure it's measured out and it's absolutely bang on right, and you want to be able to rely on it all the way in front of a high court judge, then you want a surveyor who's comfortable and happy with a report on
I agree.
exactly where the boundary sits on it.
I agree. Have you had any others?
Of late, we have had one or two others where there's still an issue with the position of the boundary with it, and there's been some trespass as well to erect new fencing and things like that. And there's been quite a lot of harassment there as well, and that's verbal and it's sort of in writing as well, which seems like the oddest thing to do. Is almost one of them read as a confession as to what they shouldn't have done. So he's question marks over sort of the legal advice and perhaps even their surveyor's advice on what they chose to do with it. But the results of that one's very much not
Won't the
TBC.
title, not necessarily the title, but again the previous conveyances, etc. Won't they have any details on whether they can go over to
Not only that, really, also it came down to changes because our client's property was extended, and the neighbour's property was also extended, but had an original garage in place, so it depended on the where things were situated really with it. And then there was also what the previous owner of the property had to say as well. But the previous owner's in his 80s, really, so you got to try and get that evidence while you can, as it were. Otherwise, you never know. But there's a suggestion, really, that maybe the boundary should have been a bit further away from where it was. But realistically, the other party's arguing over what is a few inches, really. It's not exactly worth the fight.
That's always the argument, isn't it?
Well, it is, but it's also a few inches that they can't actually access either, so it's kind of pointless. It's adverse possession anyway, really, in many ways.
Yeah, well, I've had occasions where I've just said to the client, "Is it really worth it?"
Oh, many times.
Right? Is it really worth it? Because I've had clients wanting to argue. It's a different matter if it's a few inches, but then in length, that few inches matters because it's the whole length of the drive. But when it's just a few inches of a corner,
it's not worth the fight.
Is it worth the fight? What is the value of that little piece of land? Is it more? Is it having an effect on you at all? and B, is it worth more than the hassle and the cost that you're going to pay us?
There's an element of neighbours just not wanting to give ground.
Yeah, absolutely.
In a literal sense.
Yeah.
But also in a sort of a mental sense as well, of wanting to fight for what they think is theirs.
Yeah. Well, anyway, let's bring this to a close for now. It's a shame we could have spoken a little more on disputes, to be fair, but we're short on time. Guys, thank you. That's an end of another session. I'll be back next week with another show. Next Tuesday, 4 o'clock. Please listen in. It'll be another area of law, and inshallah, if I live long enough, I'll speak to you next week. Allah Hafiz.